What the hell?
Okay,
Okay, let's start.
in one go. All
One
right.
go.
So, welcome. I'm here with Chia, a friend of mine, and she did a podcast before. I was on the podcast once, and I thought I would return the favor. So
Oh, thank
here
you.
we are.
Thank you.
How are you
Great.
doing?
I'm very, very good. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
Hmm. Yeah, I thought it would be an interesting idea to talk to you first, just to see what your experience with podcasting in general is like.
Yeah.
So maybe you can tell a little bit about your podcast. What was it about, and how did you get started?
My podcast, I haven't really working on for lately year-ish. My podcast is really about like my friends in general, or like a little bit outside of my friends who I consider nerd. It's I all call them ornery a nerd, but they all have some sort of really the world they really work on, or like something. It's not hobby. Their life is really in it. Maybe like bread making, a sourdough bread, coffee, camera, photography, makeup, like language, like all these things that people they think this is a very small thing, but for me it was like really the world they really invested and they really living into it, and then their perspective is really based on. So I'm really curious how they get into how they are. So I met up with all these people and I sit down and have a coffee and then ask about like what is your world it look like. That was my podcast started. It was started like right after corona time, because I really wanted to reconnect and also introduce my friends who's like amazing nerds to the world. Like that is not small world what they are in. So that was a little bit about my project.
Hmm. So like their hobbies, their passions, and their
Yes.
okay. And so how did long did you do the podcast?
I think I did it nearly 2 years, I think. Quite a lot of people I met, more than 20 episodes or something like that I did. Yeah.
So how do you feel like the podcast changed over time?
I think beginning I was really just like I really want to like talk with my friends and that they are really like funny and weird and interesting. I want people to hear our conversation we usually have. But then it really make me like it's really not about hobby. It's really like how they are. It's really there is a roots to be who they are, like why they like it. So it's really interesting to see what's my world is like and how I gonna share. And also interesting thing for me, everybody actually want to talk about their world, like their passion, but they think, oh, this is not important for any other people. So they just keep it really small and simple. But when I say, like, I have a podcast and I want to interview you, I want to talk with you, I didn't have anyone say no. They're like,
Mhm.
yeah, no, but when? It's like, well, like you actually want to talk about it. And so I think people don't invest time to make like platform like you're doing right now. But once you kind of like, I have a platform, could you come? I never really had a people say, no, it's not like that kind of thing. Everybody is like, yeah, yeah, like, it's not like that. But oh, you want to hear it. And then they really talked. And so I thought, yeah, I think that's the like interesting thing about it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. A lot of people want to tell about themselves. They like to tell about their passion, right?
Yeah.
So that's yeah, interesting that you put that perspective, and also that you managed to interview that many people. Like 20 is still quite a lot.
I
Uh,
think so.
was that your original plan as well, or did you just think like we'll go with the flow, see how it goes?
Yeah, that was yeah, how it's I didn't really think about like actually making that much series. And I still do want to go back and then start doing that. But that time I didn't know what I'm doing either. So it was like really took off, as in like, yeah, I just thought of it. I'm gonna set up and I'm gonna do it. But now I really want to actually, yeah, if I'm going back again, I really want to set up a little bit more and then maybe have a little bit conversation with them what I wanted to talk or what I they want to talk. So I would read a bit more research or something. Yeah.
Mm. Oh, about a certain topic and then more specialized knowledge than or
Yeah, yes, like things that I really don't know. Then I just sat down and like as if like I have no idea what you're talking about. Better than like, yeah, like I want to see that. So that's I
yeah.
think that's a little bit more respect because it was started as like my friend's conversation to talk and I just wanted to put my interesting conversation with my friend out there. But that could be nice for more about them in that way.
Ah,
That's what I
well,
thought.
yeah, that's also what I wanted to ask. Like, why did you quit? But it seems like you didn't really quit, right? It's just on a temporary pause. So.
I think I had like several. I didn't really quit. Like I had several people lined up, and I really wanted to talk with them, and they were like, "Yeah, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about that." But I think since Corona just ended and like world is opened, everybody's life sort of gonna get back into their rhythm, so they didn't have a time much. And so I had like several times like I have to reschedule with my friend and it just kind of faded. Like several people like, oh yeah, I just okay, let's adjust the time. This and then doing that, I just like didn't go anywhere. And so I thought, okay, let's take a break because I'm pushing myself too.
Mhm.
So that's yeah, I still like talking and knowing about people, what they're doing. It's just really interesting to me. I think it's the same sort of passion you have. You are so interested in a culture and a people, language, all these things. So yeah, I didn't really stop. I think it's still cooking inside of me, but I want to know a better way. That's
Mm.
how I
You-
think. Yeah.
You're waiting for the next pandemic.
No, no, don't. Just knock on the. Yeah, but I think at
Yeah.
that time everybody sort of kind of closed in our like home or room. So we really had a time to explore ourselves. Or like if people who has like this kind of passion, they quite had like, oh my goodness, I have time now to do this. So it was a kind of weird vacation for these nerds to explore. My friends build a camera or like they quite well spend this time well. Now it's the world is kind of like opened again and we living few years after that. So it's interesting, like we learn something we really like. And there's a life that we may not really like daily life, like work and everything, how to balance it or which one now it's priority. I think that's really interesting thing. And for me, I think I prioritize a little bit my life other than other people. So I think that's gradually I kind of took shift to myself back. I think that's the
Yeah.
reason it kind of stopped in a way. Yeah.
Did you happen to pick up any of the hobbies or passions that you talked about in the podcast?
Oh goodness, that's a good question. I I do take pictures, as you know. I do analog. I have an analog camera. So last year, amazingly, I take picture more than ever, and I actually quite put thought and time in it. Other than my martial arts training, as people don't know that I train 5 days a week to be a martial art instructor or martial artist. But I thought that was the only thing I'm gonna do in my life. But last year I took a quite a lot picture and I developed my interest and also few people that I spend time to sit down in a podcast, they actually become my sort of not mentor, but really become guidance to. So I get into photography more because of them. Yeah, my nerds influenced me.
Makes sense. So,
It
and the
does.
martial arts, which one is that?
I'm doing Systema, that is the quite holistic comparative martial arts, very unique combination. And not last. No, last January, I become an instructor in training.
That's nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. I think that I'm become really have a nerd sense of nerdness for
Mm.
photography and martial arts. So I connect with these nerds well because I have something. I consider myself, as I said in a podcast, I'm not nerd enough. That's why I explored the world of nerdness. And then yeah, I think I'm one of the nerds now after the podcast.
But you define nerd as a strong passion, right? Not
Yeah,
necessarily
it's
the basement dwelling person. Yeah.
no, but some of my friends stuck in the basement developing their film, so that's also thing. But yeah, I think nerd is my like a cute term of their craftsmanship. I mean, I can call them craftsmen, but I think it's really cute to say my nerds. So it's just catchy to me. But yeah, it's a strong passion about something that it may not be the something for other person.
Yeah, I'll put the link of your podcast in the description.
And
Maybe
then I
the
have
top.
to start.
Give you
Yes.
some motivation.
Yes, thank you. You're giving me tip now.
But last part for this topic on podcast. Do you have any tips for me? Like, of course, just starting out, but anything in general?
I think you are generally really good like listener and you are good at like kind of pulling the words out of other people. Like I'm very comfortable talking with you. So I think that's really, really plus. And also like showing interest. I found that I'm very passionate to listen to other people what they do. If I'm really blank and like not showing my passion to or interest to them, they people tend to close up to like, okay, you're not that interested in me. I can't really talk. So I think I I was more passionate about them more than themselves that made them comfortable. Like I'm very excited about talking with them. Like, oh my goodness, how do you do that kind of? I think I generally has that attitude, but I decide to show it so they feel like, wow, this person actually want to hear me. Otherwise, people have to share something about themselves even in general topics it's quite like okay just going to mundane like let's not to go in depth, let's just talk about something like yeah it's cute enough. But if you want to really go into depth you really have to show that you're listening and also like excited about them but not like oh my goodness and you just like really have a passion towards them and open. And I think I had a nothing they say, I say like, oh, you shouldn't think about this way or anything, because that's who they are. So that kind of like acceptance, like the judgment or what they feel
Mm.
is on the listening part, people. Like they can think whatever they want. But rather not to put like, oh, you shouldn't think about, oh, you should do this. It's not on me. I'm just like place to be to pull more information. So I try to be bridge between the person who's speaking and the person who listening. I think that's in general to say like if you want to have just like normal conversation and like nothing touches you, it could be safe. It's really safe and everybody don't feel get hurt or anything. But if you want to talk, you really have to be in it to open yourself. Then they talk. I think that that's one thing I really feel comfortable and confident about, that I'm good dialogue partner. Yeah. It have to be
Certainly.
conversation. That's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, eventually, my plan is also to do some more controversial stuff and maybe some
Yeah,
politics. And, but I
yeah,
was
yeah.
wondering, did you ever run across something where you felt like there was like a bit of a boundary or?
I think boundary as in like topics, that's not what I felt. But often people who talk to me in like maybe it's conversation about just a coffee or bread or but eventually really touches them like how they are bringing like upbringing or why they started. Sometimes it's quite vulnerable part of themselves So I think in a way that was my boundary to like see them overcoming to share. Like we touched about like past or family or like upbringing, maybe that touched them. Often have like after like okay, let's the recording done, then the conversation actually started. Like really, sometimes I consider it as gift for myself because that's not on the podcast sometimes, and sometimes it has a tear or joy or anything. So that opening up is in a way the boundary. Topics wise, it's not really, but it'd be interesting to do that with the way with joy and love.
Huh?
Yeah, I think
It's
so.
almost like a psychiatrist approach. Huh?
I don't deny anything, so that's
Yeah,
one thing. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, we'll see. We'll see how my journey goes.
I
Talking
think
to many
it's a
people.
good journey for you because you really have an interest in the world. You like so much language in a country, or like I never really seen the person who actually lived in like Taiwan and speaking their language that fluent. I think like Netherlands and Asia is such a like different spectrum.
Mm.
It's completely I living in the Netherlands thinking this is like other side of the world,
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah,
culture
definitely.
wise, a perspective wise. So I think your journey will be that far, I think.
Hopefully,
Definitely.
hopefully. All right. So let's switch over to like your life here in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
You of course, you've been here for quite some time. You
6 years
came from
now.
Japan.
Yes. Yeah.
How many years? Sorry.
This is the sixth year.
6 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of like the original culture shock, like what struck you the most?
I always said that Dutch people, as in the head and the mouth, is very close. It's the most soft way to say it.
Okay, what's the hard way?
Yeah, like, well, people say anything in order, in the name of the honesty. It's quite surprise for me. As coming from Japan, just let's like, let's go around and around and around and never touch the you know, the end of the discussion. We don't like discussion. We don't like questioning. We don't like disagreement. So coming from that culture and then be polite as possible. As a language wise, we have past and future tense and formal tense of the past and future. So that kind of culture, people really like value honesty and say things. It's quite interesting for me. Yeah, that's
That
what I
almost
think.
seems like everywhere outside Japan would be that. No?
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree. It's really interesting if people consider me as a sweet and kind. And in Japan, people think I'm quite opinionated or like open. And then people think you're vague and like reserved or kind or like, and then people think I'm quiet. And in Japan, people think you can just tone it down, like don't laugh that loud, or like you can speak softer. And here, people literally can't hear me because speak soft. And then I was like, I have to shout now. It's a very weird experience. Like people think I'm speak. I do have a soft voice, even for Japanese, but people literally can't hear me. And everyone goes like, "Excuse me, excuse me." I was like, "Am I speaking or whispering?" And I guess I'm more whispering to people. That was very unique, also. Yeah.
Still kind of interesting that you're sort of in the middle, right? Sort of the most extreme on both sides. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so. And also, I think Japanese, or I don't know, I can't really say in general in Asian, but Japanese perspective, a lot of people become quite three types in big category. Like one is expat who sent by company, so they remain as a Japanese in Japanese company and Japanese community, and 2 3 years and they go back. So they don't really lose their Japaneseness. They still in the bubble of Japan of Japanese company, and they go to Japanese grocery shop and they eat as same as Japan, and they go back. And there's a people like who really come to like done with Japan. I'm sort of done with Japan, but they really become in a way westernized. Like I call them like they become like a rapper or something for me. I was like, why
Rapper.
they like yeah, it's like they dress up completely like as far as Japan. I see them like smoking weed and all these things and do as if Dutch people do, but a little bit more than Dutch people do. Dutch people wouldn't do that far, but it's kind of like idealized Western culture situation as like rebound or I don't know counterbalance of the Japaneseness, and I don't belong there either. I don't.
Mm,
I still like very conservative grandmother raised girl in a way. Girl is a weird way to say, but I think I'm a little bit more normal, living as a normal. Like I don't really tinge myself as like counterbalance from Japan. So I think it's really like there's a people who actually live here or being Japanese bubble or suddenly go as far as away mentally and culturally from Japan. I think it's a really
yeah.
interesting thing.
Well, for one, I think there are not that many Japanese here
No.
compared to Chinese, right? Like Chinese you see
Yeah, yeah,
everywhere, and I hear it everywhere.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's actually quite rare that I hear that on a train, like someone talking in Japanese. That almost never happens.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Whereas you do hear quite a bit of Chinese.
Yeah, it was really
But
weird. I watched a weird movie, just a little bit off track, movie in like local theater, and it was really like shocking, weird. Like I was like, oh my goodness, I'm a little bit drunk from the movie, and coming out, and there was two lady talking, and I keep thinking, why do I understand them? And I realized there was Japanese speaking in front of me, and I was like, this is rare opportunity because it was like really west in Amsterdam local place. Like if you go center, you may see the tourists walking around with a map. Like, whoa, these two ladies are actually living in Nederland or Amsterdam to be in this local movie theater talking in Japanese. It was really like, yeah, as you say, we don't see that much Japanese. So I was like, what was my reaction to it? I didn't expect that they're speaking Japanese. I thought maybe Chinese or other Asian, East Asian. So I thought, why do I understand? Is that movie brainwashed me so much? That's Japanese. It was a really weird experience. Yeah,
I,
that's yeah how much
I,
layer Japanese we are.
well, it's a shame you didn't suddenly learn Chinese and understand that it's yeah.
That could be a great. Yeah, but it was really weird. So yeah, I think it's a very rare to bump into Japanese. Sometimes you do, but
Mm,
yeah, it's more like a people who want to go Japan, we bump into them more, like
yeah.
more. It's amazingly a lot.
We can talk about that in a moment. But just to go back to your sort of
Yeah,
three
yeah, yeah,
categories, like the
yeah,
traditional Japanese, the anti-Japanese maybe, or whatever you want to call it, and then
yeah,
you're somewhere in the middle. Have you
yeah.
found some Japanese that are like you that are also maybe not so extreme one way or the other?
I think few very difficult because I don't really go around Japanese people much. I have one friend who happened to be like married to a Dutch person. So I think she is quite living normal, but very more Dutch culture because they have a family here. Yeah, a few people do that. I don't know. I definitely there's a many, I believe. Yeah,
Hmm.
but rare
Well,
to see. Yeah.
yeah, okay. And about the Dutch culture, did you pick up any specific things that you now have become part of your personality? Like,
Hmm. Interesting. I start talking about weather a lot. Uh,
that's good.
I really talk about weather a lot, but as like a conversation starter, if I don't know what to say, it's just like, yeah, I just have to complain about weather. That's one thing I found it like I do a lot.
No
Uh,
keys or specific things?
I think one thing I thought was interesting is I start saying "excuse me" in the street. I think I talk about that in somewhere, but in Corona time, 1.5 meter rules were applied, and for me was like heaven. Like Japanese has this kind of personal space, not issue, but really have awareness of personal space. So for us, we don't have to really say excuse me to pass around people. We know who's passing, so we do have a gesture to share the space. If somebody passing, I would move my body to share to show that I know the person passing. But Netherlands, till 1.5 was applied, I didn't know why people bump into me all the time. Even like it's like a really huge alley of supermarket, there's like at least 2 meter, and people still bump into me. And I was like, am I standing on your way? It was always weird to me. And
You mean like sort of a spatial awareness? Like it's just we tend not to focus so much on people around us.
Japanese have awareness. I don't know how to explain, but like Dutch people don't mind standing in the middle of the road if people
Mm.
coming, and the people don't mind shouting at them saying "excuse me," and people still like yeah 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 I'm sorry, and then like and it does nothing emotionally happen. For Japanese, it's quite hard. And then often people say like I get bumped into people, like somebody like bump into me, and I said sorry because I feel bad that I occupied the road that didn't realize the person coming. And then often my Dutch friends said, "Why you say sorry? They like hit you." I was like, "Yeah, but I was the one standing here. Like I should have noticed that person coming." But Dutch people was like, "Why they could see that too?" So that was
I feel like this is also one of more Japanese-centric things where
yeah.
if you step outside of Japan, then
Yeah,
you might
I'm
not have that.
still, yeah, and then it was really interesting for me. And now I don't mind say, excuse me, to pass people. I don't have that emotional burden to say.
Ah, okay, okay. So you can use it in a
I
more
think,
sort of aggressive way to sort of let me through kind of way.
yeah, I don't have to like think I'm sorry that I'm passing kind of a apologetic way. I just say, excuse me, and I pass. Before I was like, I'm sorry that I'm rude coming in my head. But it's like, excuse me, I just need to move. I kind I get that attitude, and I don't think about these things anymore that way as like wow I'm rude. It took me
So,
6 years.
but have you gone back to Japan
I
in the
haven't
past?
6 years. No.
Oh, okay, okay. So when you come back, you might feel like a mafia boss, just like telling everyone, like,
I
"Let
feel
me through."
bad. I probably feel like, oh my goodness, I'm so loud now, like louder. Before people think I'm loud in Japan, and now I'm louder. That could be. Yeah, I think so. These kind of things is interesting. I still find, or my friends or people who spend time longer than me, longer with me, find my Japanese traits than I do. Sometimes go like, oh, that's very Japanese thing. I still find these things and I try to little bit amend that custom for them, not for me, but for them would be easier to be me being a little bit direct or me being like get to the point. These things might be easier for them. For me, I'm fine doing indirect or direct. It's fine for me. But people who
Try
are
to.
with me, yeah, maybe easier for me than like me just waiting for the like behind of that like tall Dutch person forever than me saying achter and they move. That's easier. I don't mind standing behind of like 2 meter person and I was like, okay, could you move? But for them, it's if I do that their way, that might be easier for them. So I do amend a bit of thing and try not to emotionally think I'm sorry, I'm rude. Yeah,
Well, that's a good way. Quite flexible.
I think
That's
so.
nice.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned something about money. I'm kind of interested in what that is.
So this was really interesting. So I told you that I got my martial arts instructorship and I had to go to Canada with my people with my school. So we are like 10 of us, all Dutch and me. And so we book flight ticket or like Airbnb individually because it's just a big group. And then we don't want to pack in like one Airbnb, 11 of us, or like hotel. So we just book individually, same flight, but booked individually. And then I come to school and it's like, yeah, I booked my Airbnb. And everybody's like, how much? I was like, what? And so on and on and on, everybody talk about flight ticket and an Airbnb price. And it's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
whole, like, I was so excited about what we're gonna do there, what kind of teacher we see, what kind of program we're gonna be attend. So I was really wanted to talk about, but on and on and on, everybody talks about who got the cheapest Airbnb or, and I just like, can we talk anything but price now? Or like the square meter of the room that you booked? And then for me, as a Japanese person, talking about money in public is not really comfortable
Right?
things. It
Mm.
is quite, in a way, not rude, but it's rude. We put if I'm giving you money or something, I put in the envelope so people don't directly see the money. So that's our custom. So money is not something we talk, especially you don't ask the price of something you purchase. It's quite, yeah, rude.
No. Yeah.
So I was really shocked about, I mean, you guys, like, why talk about price all day long? Like, let's talk about different things. But but how much your flight ticket is? I was like, what? So I think it was really like, wow, that people was really interesting to me.
Mm. I can imagine. Yeah. But so in Japan, you would say like you never talk about salary or money related stuff. Then.
Yeah,
That's,
we guess about it.
okay.
We gossip in the back, and also we will guess from like, okay, like this is how many years I'm working here, this is my price. Okay, probably they have this much too. So we guess, but we're not gonna go to you like, hey, how much you earn, how much was it. That's be like, what is going on with you, like what's wrong with you, to ask like, is anything wrong with you or anything wrong with situations you want to confirm. But it will be still happen in behind of somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Okay.
sorry, like I really need to ask you this. And then how much was the ticket price? It would be how Japanese would ask. That
Mm.
was quite interesting.
Yeah, indirect. Okay. I like from an outsider perspective. It seems like I don't want to live in Japan, but I feel like the culture is so interesting because it feels like sort of like political landscape. Like everywhere is politics.
I really think it's interesting. Like all the friends go to Japan and praise how beautiful and everywhere. But at the same time, they go, I don't want to live there.
So,
And it's like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. And also, as a Japanese collective culture, somehow I feel responsible to say, I'm sorry about my country. Like, I'm glad that you
that's very
having,
different.
yeah, I never really leave Japanese-ness that much. That's, I think it's still interesting thing. But yeah, Japan is
Well,
kind of hard place to live for foreign people, I
mm,
think.
yeah, and especially if you don't know much about the culture and you just dive in, I think it will shock you quite a lot, right?
I think so. And also, but if you dive in, like you could still use the like I just got here kind of like that the like kind of like not knowing is actually easier to navigate. If you know, then I think if you know more about Japanese culture, you get trapped
Mm,
because everything is like have to, like now you have to second guess, and now you have to think that this is a manner that you don't born in. Then I think it's harder. But if you just like, okay, I don't really know, I just gonna dive in, might be attitudes wise right for towards the Japanese. I think it's right. Like Japanese gonna adjust to you.
Okay, but like the longer you stay there, the more
Yeah, yeah,
intricacies you see, and
yeah,
more difficult
definitely.
it becomes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, yeah, that was what I was wondering as well, because you know about the weebos, right? The anime fans. The what what are your thoughts on that? But let's start with that.
Oh no. I think there is a YouTuber that I quite like a Japanese teacher, say Dogen. Like he's has amazing videos about learning Japanese, but also the culture wise. And I think these people like interest in general to like Japanese. I was talking with French person about it that Japan and France might be the two biggest countries in the world that fantasized too much. Like France has so many series about like how cute Paris could be, and people get shocked. It's not really like that. And Japan is the same. Like all these culture and everything looks so cute and different. We like people feel like fantasize a lot, and then get it quite hit in the head in reality. I think that is, I mean, in any culture that could happen, but I think Japan has one of like quite fantasized. I call myself unicorn, like
Oh, you
because yeah, like everybody fantasize it, and then you never seen the one, and now you see the one. So like Japanese a unicorn to me.
are
So I
they when
think
they talk to you? Are they sort of
uh,
disappointed that you're not this anime loving person, or there's
no, no, I just joke about it before they go into it, so they don't go into
okay.
it. It's just my protection, a boundary. Like, yeah, like I'm your unicorn. What do you want to listen? What do you want to hear? I think, I think this culture, or like, I think also like Japan is really, I don't know, all these new singers. That's amazing band. Also, one band that doing really well in the world coming to Amsterdam too. Uh, and I think it has aspect of these people loves it, but yeah, I don't know. Like Japan is or Japanese are also human and exactly what people who they are. Like we're nothing different. Yes, and on the skin level, we have a lot of culture to make me Japanese, but what we feel is the same. Anger, sadness, happiness, all these things the same. There is a video that I see about photography, and it was like just bunch of random Japanese word is traditionally there, and everybody was like, wow, this is like most profound advice in the comment section. I was like, come on, if you translate it in the English word, you'd be really bored as it is, but because it's in Japanese, it sounds amazing. But to me, I was like, come on, we are not that different. So I think in the end, humans are human. I hope we get in touch in that, respecting culture and love the culture. But I hope we getting into a little one step farther than, anime voice girls. I don't speak like that. I hope.
Have you met any Japanese that do speak like that? Like it feels like way too high pitched to be.
You are seeing one of them. I my originally have a really really high pitched voice. Used
Mm.
to like when I was living in the US while back ago, people thought I was a child because my voice was so high. And I used to work in the customer support in Japan, and they really pitched my tone really down to this soft voice. But I used to speak quite high voice. And then people still think when I'm speaking Japanese, or like I get excited or anything, like, why you speak that high? It's like that's my normal voice. So I think we do that.
So a little bit,
Oh,
maybe, but it also depends on the language then, I guess.
yeah, but there is my friend said they met a Japanese person putting all these like yeah, it sounded like a comic. And I was like, I'm sorry about that as a Japanese kind of. But they said they met
Plus,
someone speaking like animation, and they were like laughing so hard, and I got so ashamed. I was like, I'm sorry about. one of us. I mean, funny. But yeah, so I guess it is, yeah, maybe.
Hmm. All right, all right. So yeah, switch shifting a little bit. I want to
Mhm.
check my notes real quick.
Yes.
Uh, one final thing might be interesting about Japan in general. There seems to be a lot of like misconceptions and like maybe a strong focus on anime, whereas there's plenty of other Japan. Um, so actually, yeah, let me see if I can pronounce this correctly. There was this one thing, the Kashiyawa, a poem
Say
about
one
the
more time.
uh, it's the Kashiyawa.
Kashiwa?
Probably mispronounced, but it's the song about the bird in the night and making the bird sing. Uh, and it's about the three generals of Japan. Uh,
Oh, right.
and I was wondering because I thought I read that a long time ago. I read the book Taiko
Mm-hmm.
about Hideyoshi,
Mm-hmm.
and that struck me as like a really important part of like Japanese history, like the era of the country at war, and
Mm-hmm.
they said in the book that everyone or almost everyone knows this poem, and that
Yeah.
people usually ask like, which general are you, like which way do you prefer? So yeah, maybe you can answer that.
Ah, interesting. I quite fond of Nobunaga Oda, that person. Like, yeah, if he's not gonna sing it, just kill it. That's definitely my personality. Yeah, if he's not gonna sing it, I think, and yeah, I think that one. Let's go that one. Then that'd be very weird one, isn't it? Yeah, if you're not gonna sing it, just kill it.
Yeah, so yeah, just for people that are listening and don't know about that, so the song is like, or the poem is like, what do you do if a bird doesn't sing? And Nobunaga is like, kill the bird. Hideyoshi is like, make the bird want to sing, and Ieyasu is like, wait,
We
just
do,
wait for it
yeah,
to sing.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
the patient.
that's because their personality or their history. Ieyasu had to be in a capture as a hostage for a long time, so he waited till the like Japan come into his hand,
Hmm.
and then Hideyoshi, he was nearly a farmer, getting up everything, so he made the world to be his. And
Hmm.
Nobunaga he was born as like the crown child of the big samurai family, and he just killed everyone to get it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it makes
But
sense, the
yeah,
personality stuff like that.
I think so. But I think it's really interesting to wait till it happens. I do have that attitude too.
I think I would go with Hideyoshi style, like try to
Like
make the
make it
bird sing.
happen. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like that's quite Dutch people may do that, make it happen.
Okay.
Like make it happen. I would wait to happen. If it's not gonna happen, then let's kill it. I
So
think,
nice mix.
yeah, nice mix it. It's just extreme.
Mm. But do you feel like that this part of history is still like quite relevant in Japan, the area, or is it more something you personally just enjoy reading about?
I I wanted to be a Japanese history teacher, and I'm really, really fond of like Japanese samurai culture or samurai era because my grandpa loved it, and then we used to read together for a long time. So for me, personally, I really love these cultures, and sometimes I feel interesting. Come back to the topic about like fantasizing Japan, like a lot of people quite fantasize about samurai culture or like this samurai era or like samurai mentality, and I also think that's also fantasy.
That would be me, I think, but it's
But it's a cool era. I do fantasize all these, end of the samurai time was just amazing to read about, but
Mm,
again these people were human doing wrong thing. We
right.
just we are not living there, so we can fantasize it. And then but it's really interesting, like, oh, like I had a conversation with someone really fantasizing about samurai or like, yeah, way of living, and I was like, yeah, but that's not what it is to me, but in
Oh, okay.
anywhere I think it's what it is to me. Yeah.
But you mean like they have this idea that it was sort of a perfect world where
Yeah,
everything
or
was sort of
perfect
harm
human
with
way to live, or like this
yeah.
warrior samurais, they're like the perfect clean human. And
Well,
it's
mm,
not like that either.
yeah, I can imagine it has a lot of dark sides as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard any Japanese talk about this, but the ETA or ETA, the people, yeah, maybe you can talk something about
I'm not sure that I can correctly say these things or I'm comfortable to talk about, but Japan has that. Japan has the part, like let's get it back. Like I really have to say this first. Like Japan often has like two cleanness and two darkness, and people see that only that part. I really don't want that. But I think
mm, the
let's put that
extremes,
like
maybe.
yeah, extremes in a way. Like Japan is too good and too bad, and at the same
Mm.
time for people's eyes. And so I don't want people to think that what I'm talking about is wrong, but there is a really long history that there's a people who was, I guess, bottom of the society or put in the bottom of the society. And this is what I learned in school. So I'm not in that era. But when people hear their last name, oh, don't get married, they're from these people. That kind of discrimination was alive. And I think it's still there. So yeah, these kind of things happen. Definitely. Like they're from different like ancestry or blah blah blah, so don't get married with them. Not in these kind of things, my family never say these kind of things, but I learned it in a school that is exist. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Mm. And I think like the what I mentioned, the ETA or these people, they used to be like the I think garbage collectors and also the people
Yeah,
that did
yeah,
the bodies
yeah,
and all of that,
or
right?
they are forced to do only these things. Yeah,
Yeah, sort of semi-slave status
yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
But and you feel like this culture is still, yeah, I feel like there was a movie about that, right? How it's such a taboo to be working with the dead as a Japanese. I forgot the name, but
Is it that the movie that become famous with the person who does funeral?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that's not the movie about, but I think it's not the, if we are talking about say movie, but I think people are still look these things down. But at the same time, that happens anywhere and everywhere. People in the bottom of the society, or society make them being in the bottom. That's the only thing they could get.
Well, that might be true, but I feel like here there's not so much taboo or stigma if you say like, look, I do these funeral arrangements and that's my job. People actually might find it interesting, whereas I feel like in Japan it's still looked down upon a bit too. Is it
Mm,
incorrect?
mm, I think death, as a money is, death is something, it's very close, but at the same time it's nothing, it's something scary or also. So talking about these kind of job like could be a little bit touchy unless you're a monk, the part of praying. My friend, actually one of the photographer a long time ago, I was thinking about him, so it's interesting. He, after the earthquake in East Japan, which known as Fukushima incident in our side, he actually quit the being photographer and decided to work in a funeral home, and he actually applied it because he thought, okay, this is the field right now that not much people are there. And we're really shocked, like, wow, like that's your decision. But I got shocked about my reaction of shock, like, whoa, you go into that. And yeah, he really tried to share about the world, what he's doing. And he said there's so many really good people respectfully doing that, but these things are not known because that is something to be hide still, I
Mm.
think.
Yeah, in Asian in societies in general, I feel like this is more of a thing, right? In Chinese, you have
Yeah,
also the thing with the number four sounding like death, so they avoid the number four. It's an unlucky number.
Japanese are saying four. Yeah, they
Yeah,
avoid
it's,
four too. It sounds like a death, but it's I think that's the same as Dutch people cursing a cancer. It's
is it?
something.
Because I feel
Yeah,
like
I think something that death is something scary things. Japanese
oh
curse with death a lot. We don't say F word,
ah
but we say
okay.
like deadly hungry or dying tired. So it's a death is something has already in negative way in a way. Like Japanese don't
Yeah,
curse with like F word, but we say deadly tired. Oh, I'm dying, as in like I'm tired. And I think
that's
that's
also
say
English. I'm
yeah,
dying.
okay. Yeah, well, I think Japanese really say death a lot in the words, but I think that has the meaning to it to something bad,
Yeah, the association is just bad in general.
bad or something scary or dark. Yeah.
Well, on the topic of scary and dark, if you don't mind me asking, so this is the Okigara forest, the the sort of suicide forest in Japan.
Aokigahara, yeah.
You know, what are your thoughts on that? And are people actively ignoring it because it's surprisingly well known outside? Sort of, there was recently this YouTuber that got there and
Ah, right,
showed the
right, right.
body.
I actually worked in a town that near that forest. Also, later on, I worked in a prefecture next to. There's a famous cliff that used to be famous for people jumping off.
Mhm.
And the suicide rate is just like epidemic in Japan. People die.
Well, yeah, yes, but I do want a small correction because
Yeah.
people seem to think that Japan is the number one, but that's not the case. Like there are many countries where it's much higher.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Okay.
it,
Yeah.
it's actually I think relatively compared to like the US, it's sort of more or less the same. So just to give not this idea that everyone is
Mm, mm,
jumping
mm,
off a
mm, mm.
cliff in Japan, right?
No, no.
So
But
it's
there's a people actually standing there, waiting to kind of catch these people to talk out of it, not to
yeah, okay,
do.
yeah. Mm.
Aokigahara, I think they have like phone number written, but also it was really shocking for us, the YouTuber going into like find and broadcast it is really like wrong. But I think it's not only Japan is weirdly known for these things, but at the same time, I bet there is a like in some way Europe well known for like a missing forest or something like that. It's just I
Yeah, yeah,
think anything
yeah, yeah.
comes from Japan sounds interesting, I guess. It's just exotic.
It's,
Wow, we have a
yeah,
forest for death. Like I bet like somewhere has it. I think
yeah,
anything
yeah.
come from
Uh,
Japan. If
It's
anything,
emphasized.
yeah, it's just like wow, Japan do this. Like I think you do that too, kind of. To me,
Yeah, I saw a documentary about China, and there was like a famous bridge where a lot of people commit suicide. There was also someone living there that tried to talk people out of it, and
yeah,
it's actually quite touching. That's also like a human element that you see all around
I
the world,
think
right? So
I think so. These people like often really talk them. I just read the news that some random people took a young girl, like 15, out of the train rail and
mm,
said, like, you can't do this. And then I think, yeah, I think anything put like this has happened in Japan, make it interesting. Yeah, that's why
yeah,
I
it
think
does feel.
yeah, that's why I said, like, I don't want to, like, when we talked about these people in society, I just said, I don't want to, Japan is the only place to think about. Like, yeah, of course it's Japan. I think it happens in everywhere. I
Yeah,
think.
that's true. Yeah, yeah, it's just an extra layer. It's more like the sauce, maybe, not the
Yeah,
main ingredient, right?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I feel like cultures they matter quite a bit, but it's not maybe the only thing that matters. That's
I, it's just really interesting that how much people love Japan and are curious about Japan because there's a many country like China, Korea, Taiwan having really booming culture, movie like field. Korea, South Korea doing so well, and music
Mm.
wise too. But still, like Japan has like some sort of mystic sounds.
Mythical. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like if you go in Taiwan or South Korea, it's a little bit more, I don't say casual, but like it's more realistic. But somehow, like I'm going Japan. I was like, oh my goodness, you're going Japan, kind of. This, this, we
Different
are
planet,
like a
right?
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's that's just a
But
land.
but it's interesting, Muska. I feel like South Korea is in this process of becoming like a mythical country as well
I think
because of
so.
K-pop and like the dramas. And, yeah.
I think
So we'll see how
so.
that's what it's like. Maybe in 20 years, people will have the same idea about South Korea.
I'm going Seoul, kind of. But I think South Korea, like Korean food is everywhere in Amsterdam right now. Like you can really see a lot. Yeah, so I
Mm.
think East Asia is now a little bit
In
more,
general,
yeah, in
yeah.
general,
Also
like
with
taking
bubble tea and
over.
everything.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like wow. Like I've never been like these places. Like wow, kind of feel. So I guess it's really good that there's a curiosity and people willing to put it and to actually understand more beneath, not just like we are not selling ourselves as a product like Japan or Korea, just put Japan on anything and sell it. That's not, I hope that's not what we are doing. We do want to sell beneath it. When I came Netherlands, there was a time the word ikigai was like just everywhere. There was a number one question like, have you read the book Ikigai? I was like, why do I need to read it? That's from my country. That's the one thing as I was asked. And the other thing was like everywhere, everyone wanted to talk about woman and sex. Like, what
Really?
is that? And so I was like, that was a too big question when I came 6 years ago.
Mm.
Everybody's like, did you read the book? And I'm like, yeah, I heard about you guys don't have a sex. That was like too big question from Dutch people, very extreme about life. So I hope after 6 years,
See,
excuse me, yeah, like it's just have a little bit of underneath done.
what's the name of the book again?
Ikigai,
Ikigai.
ikigai,
Ik-
like the,
Ikigai. Okay.
what was it
Sounds
like
like a
the,
good title for the podcast. Ikigai,
oh,
sex, and ticket prices.
like life, what is it like life purpose and sex and the money? Yeah, it sounds like a life.
Something like that.
That could be a memoir or some movie actor. Yeah, yeah, let's do
Eh,
it.
let's do it. Sounds like a good ending for this podcast. Eh,
Yes, that could be a conclusion from this Japanese who living in 6 years have a life purpose. Do you have a sex? And let's talk about money. Oh
you
my
can write
god.
the characters.
Yes.
All right, Chia, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
And yeah, see you later. Good luck with the
See you
podcast.
later. Thank you very much. And you too. Bye.
Bye bye.